All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Brandon Bank. And let's talk about something that quietly kills trust, drains morale, and blocks real growth. And that, my friends, is called narcissism. It's not just a personality quirk, it's a leadership liability. And it shows up everywhere in boardrooms, small business teams, and even our personal relationships.
Yes. In leadership, narcissism often wears a disguise. You'll see charisma, confidence, big ideas, and honestly, those traits, they can be powerful when they're grounded in humility. But when it crosses the line, it becomes about control and image and not impact. So I feel like that line is when they want to be admired and not effective, right? So
Interesting.
yeah, so maybe it's they take credit for team wins, but they never take the blame for losses.
Oh, I know somebody just like that.
Yeah, and everything's like me, not we or us, even though it's a team effort.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad you pointed that because I know somebody who is exactly like that. And the thing is, they're the only person who don't think that they're a narcissist. Like everybody, I'm talking about everybody in the world that knows this person knows that she's a narcissist. She's the only person that doesn't believe she's a narcissist, right? He, it's always me. We could be in a group setting with 20 people and she will take the whole if we're given 1 hour to all talk and introduce herself, she'll take the entire hour talking about herself and nobody can get a word in. And the minute you get a word in and say something, she one-ups you and jumps in and brings the conversation back on her.
yikes.
And she never takes blame for anything. Like something happens, even if it's her fault, even if it's her doing, she finds somebody to blame to say that they're the reason why it happened to her. Typical
Yeah.
example. She's walking, she stubs her toe, she falls to the ground. Instead of saying, wow, I wasn't looking where I was going, I stubbed my toe, I fell on the ground, she'll say, man, if I wasn't turning around talking to Elle, I would have never stubbed my toe. No, you weren't paying attention. She will make everything about somebody other than herself when it comes to taking a blame. But
Yeah.
when it comes to giving credit and taking all the ego, it's always about her. Always about her.
Yeah, that's tough. So a big trait of narcissists are they take the credit, they don't take the blame, and then they make all of the conversation about them, even if someone else tries to, you can be in a group setting and someone else tries to say something and they're like, oh, that's great. But me again, I can relate to that because I did this, even if it's not related, right?
Exactly. That's her.
Their brain rewires every conversation back to
Back
them.
to them. And I do think too that a lot of those people, they have a very salesy mentality, a very salesy mindset. Like they're always selling something. If it's not a product or a service, it's like they're selling themselves. They're constantly selling. It's like, let me prove to you how great I am. So I have to convince you of how great I am. So they're constantly selling. And those people, I feel like narcissists, they're very good at selling. And most of them, you'll find them in sales.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or leadership, right?
Or
Like the C suite. Yeah. Do you have any specific examples of conversations you've had and like the moment you realize this person is a narcissist?
every day. It's like one 5 minutes ago. No, but seriously. Yeah, it's like I told you about this friend that I have. Like, she is, I mean, not even borderline. She's just full blown narcissist. She's just the only person that doesn't realizes it. She probably do, but she just doesn't want to admit it. But yeah, it's like everything. We were somewhere the other day and we were in a group setting and everybody we're meeting a bunch of new people and we're talking and it's like you're at a networking event. It was a networking event. And so we're all talking and it's like, okay, everybody should get a chance to talk about who they are, what they do, what their business is about, and all of that. The entire time was up, and I think only 2 people got to talk because by the time it got to her, she took the entire time talking about herself. I do this, I do that, I do this, I go here, I go there, I'm this, I'm that. And it was all me. Every time she opens her mouth, all I hear is Marsha
Yeah.
from the
That's
Brady Group.
exhausting.
It's always about me. And that is not good at all.
Oh,
That
no,
runs,
because it's not good because people don't like that you're not I feel like narcissists, they have this deep need to be loved and accepted,
yeah,
but your actions are actually doing the opposite. And
yes,
so she might be standing if she doesn't understand, she might be doing all this talking and not understanding why people are walking away or why people don't talk to her, and really it's counterproductive.
exactly. And people often walk away mid conversation because they're like, okay, I'm tired of this. And they walk away and it doesn't even phase her. It's like, let me turn to this other person and start talking. And it's like, no, 5 people just left. Did you not take the cue right there? But yeah, I
Yeah.
think most people they're missing out on intimate relationships, and intimate relationships meaning like, with loved ones, family, parents, that sort of relationship. And so they just try to pull it from anywhere they can and they confuse love and all and being wanted and needed with just something else. Just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Superficial temporary love? I don't
Yeah.
know what you get. I guess attention. I
Yeah.
guess that attention in the moment
Yeah.
is their
It
version
comes
of
down
love.
to that. I just want attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a leader, I guess we
Hmm.
can talk about leaders being narcissists for a minute. What could that look like? Maybe the company starts revolving around their ego instead of the mission.
Yeah.
What el
Because if you're a narcissist and you're in a company, everything is about you. It's about your way. You don't give, and let's back up for a second. When you have a company and you have employees, the purpose of you hiring staff is to bring a collective of ideas, just a work ethic of all these different melting pot of people together, right? For the greater good. And so if you have all of that resource, but then you're stifling that resource because it has to be about you and your way, then you're defeating the purpose of what a business is in business to do, right?
Yes,
So now you're
absolutely.
losing sight of what I'm supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be making money. We're supposed to be providing a good or a service. You're losing sight of that because now your ego is what feeds you, and that's more important to you. And so now everybody is diverting from what the goal and the mission is to kind of feed into your ego and do what you want, even though what you want and what you say is detriment to the business.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I think about all these big companies with these C-level leaders where every employee is just trying to serve their ego to keep
Yeah,
their job versus actually being productive. That
yeah,
happens a lot.
it does.
Wow.
It does.
Yeah.
And sometimes too, I've had this too where I've worked in companies where I had bosses who were narcissists. Oh my God, I'm having flashbacks. Give me a second.
Me too.
Yeah. Lingering trauma is coming
Yeah.
back with this one. So I worked in a property management company, right? A big in downtown Chicago. It was a huge commercial real estate, right? And the property manager on site was a woman, Hispanic woman, right? She was the epitome of narcissism. I mean, she could just write it on her forehead. Everything was about her, how she wanted, and she was rude, she was disrespectful. I remember when I would go to work, I felt so uncomfortable. I would literally be tiptoeing because I would tiptoe in and tiptoe out just so she wouldn't hear me or see me. It didn't work half the time, but I would tiptoe just so she wouldn't see me so that we wouldn't have to have any interaction at all, right? Because she would yell and scream for the simplest of things. I mean, it is not that big of a deal. And I remember, and by the way, to give you some context on that, That role was I was filling in temporary for the accountant that worked there who was on maternity leave. So she was gone for a couple of weeks. And so filled in for her. And so I could not wait for her to come back to work. I was so many times I wanted to just walk away. But because I had made a commitment, I stayed because I know the lady was coming back. And I left, then the work wouldn't get done. Oh, but anyway, I would constantly tiptoe around her. She would constantly just yell and scream. She was demeaning. She was rude. I mean, it was nightmare. Fast forward, the lady, the accountant, she came back to work. So I didn't leave the same day she came back. I stayed the whole week just so we can transition back, right? So she knows where I left off and things, and it was a good transitioning back for her. I remember, kid you not, she begged me. She almost was in tears, begged me not to leave and asked me if I could stay on longer because they would pay me regardless if she was there and I was there. They could afford both salaries. And I told her no. And looking back, when after I left, I felt bad for her because I can see she was scared, she was nervous, she was uncomfortable. She didn't want to be there. It was bad for her, and I felt like I let her down in that moment because she wanted the support and just wanted somebody to have her back. But I was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't deal with this woman. I just wanted to leave so bad.
Yeah.
Uh, the accountant, when she came back, she was just so scared. It was just this look that is still ingrained in my brain that I cannot get rid of just seeing her face, of how petrified she was to be left alone again with this woman. And she begged me so much to stay. And I just was like, nope. I was just hard and fast because I knew what it was like those couple of weeks with that woman, that I could not wait to get out of there. And I'm like, you could not pay me enough to stay one more day than that week
Mm.
when I transitioned back to you. I was out of there. But again, that is just how narcissists work. They make other people around them very uncomfortable. It's difficult to work with them. People are scared to work with them. And like, I don't want to be that kind of leader. And I don't want to be around that kind of leader either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's horrible. That woman sounds traumatized.
Yeah, she was traumatized, and I feel bad when I after I left. I wish I could have gone back, but it was too late. I had gone. I couldn't go back, but I wish I had stayed to just give her the extra support and boost. But she was scared wits of that woman.
We also have to do right by ourselves, right? Because if you stayed, you'd be just as traumatized as she was after a while.
Probably would have, or I
Yeah.
probably would have gotten to a point where I would have had words with her, and then that probably would have not been good either. Either way,
Because narcissists, I don't think can understand. You can have words with them, but I don't think it will change anything.
yeah.
Right? They can't see other people's perspectives. I think that's part of the problem. So they'll think they're right and you're a horrible person. Yeah. I don't know.
It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Uh,
That was my experience. I can't. But let's talk about small business teams, right? So in small business teams, we talk about in leadership, but in small business teams, it can show up different, right? It's very subtle, right? It's the team member who calls themselves a perfectionist, but they can't collaborate. Or the partner who praises teamwork but hoards the information. My gosh. They
oh,
keep everyone walking on eggshells, right? So it's like you claim to be a team player, but it's like I'm pulling teeth to get the information from you. But I would ask 5, 6, 7 times, can I get the information? Oh yeah, I'm gonna get it. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And it never comes. What do you think about those type of people?
I think, I guess that makes me believe that part of being a narcissist is the root of it might be fear based, right? I feel like they've probably been burnt and traumatized at a certain point, and they've carried that with them to now put that on every new person that they work with
Yeah.
in small business because, maybe they've been laid off, maybe they've been told repeatedly that their work isn't good enough, which for a narcissist could be very hurtful. They can't handle criticism, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of hoarding what they can to maintain their value. so
Mhm.
that they can keep saying that they're the expert, they're the only one who knows this or that, and keep it about
Gosh,
themselves.
you are so right. You are so right about them hoarding information because I've worked with someone who she knew a system very well. I knew it a little bit, but she knew it very, very well. And she would sprinkle information. She will never give you like all of it or a load of information at one time. You'll ask something and she'll just drop a little sprinkle of something. You still walk away like, okay, what do I do? I'm so confused. I don't know what to do. And then you'll spend hours trying to research on your own what to do and you still can't find it. So that's what she was totally like that. Totally like that. Just hoard stuff and never wants to share. And I
Yeah.
think too, those same type of people, they confuse control with competence.
Yeah. And that's a narcissistic trait is
Yeah,
control. And that's why for me, that's the number one reason I can't stand to be around a narcissist is control. Like, do not try to control me. I will run. And people don't want to be controlled. So don't do that.
exactly. People want to just know that, this is a mutual relationship, give and take, all of that. So yeah, I don't like that. And then also too, these people, they drain your emotional energy. And then again, we talked about this, the business loses focus on momentum because you're like, oh my God, I spent 5 minutes talking to you and it felt like 5 hours because you are just going nonstop.
Yeah, and they drain your energy so that you don't have the energy to do the work that needs to be done, and you're kind of you get that brain fog, right? So you can't even focus, and then you just have to go when as
Mm,
soon as you get home, you get into bed because 'cause you're so tired. I've definitely had those work experiences where I was dealing with narcissists and I just couldn't function. They took everything from me.
they just drain your life. Yeah.
It's exhausting.
And so since we're kind of like a podcast that kind of like, intersect with business and all, a key point I would mention to this is that when you're building your brand and managing your bank, right? You need alignment, not ego. You need people
Yes.
who are aligned with you as a business owner, with you and your business goals and missions and values and all of that. You don't need somebody who you're going to bring in on your team who is just egotistic. And if you get to that point, maybe it's time to cut them loose. And if
Yeah.
you're that kind of person that has ego, step back for a little bit and refocus and remember why you went into business. It's not about you. It's not about, yes, it's your business, but the business is there for a purpose. It's to make money, it's to provide a good and service. And so that should be your focus, not your ego.
That is very true. Like in the corporate world, I do feel like narcissism is often rewarded and we're kind of in like a narcissistic society a little bit. So how do we recognize that line? Like how do we recognize because for example, when we're interviewing someone new, people are taught to talk about how great they are, right? So, how do we notice when it's ego and narcissism or when it's just them trying to get a job or be successful in the work world? Where's that line?
For me, my red flags always go up with people who have to you talk about yourself, which is great because like you mentioned in a job interview, because I want to know about you. I want to know what your experiences are, what you're good at, all of that. But then if you also have to talk negatively about somebody else or something else in order to make yourself look better or feel better, then that to me is where the line comes. So I had a meeting the other day with someone and they were talking about another business, right? And so they're in the same line of business. To give you some context without giving away too much, because I tell you, everybody I know watches this podcast and they'll know exactly who I'm talking or what I'm talking about. But they're in the same line of business, and so there's a narcissist that I know, and it was like, well, this business is not doing so well, and she was putting down the other business so much in an effort to highlight her business, which was unnecessary because you can stand on your own and you can be successful on your own with or without the success or failure of somebody else. Right.
I
And
I
so
love that.
I think the minute it crosses the line is when a narcissist has to put someone else down or talk badly about somebody else because somehow that highlights them. That's when my red flag goes up. Yeah.
That's a great point. I like that. That's yeah, the negative talking. If they stay positive,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
So let's talk about relationships now. Like how does that show up in your personal and social relationships?
Okay, so I think the same patterns show up outside of work, right?
Yeah.
Love bombing. I think
Ooh,
that's a big one.
give me chills.
Control, which we kind of touched on, that's another big one.
Yeah.
Gaslighting. I know that's a pretty popular buzzword right now, but it
Yeah.
happens a lot. And emotional highs and lows, right? You can't, I don't think narcissists are capable of that like steady love. You're always going to have those ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster ride.
Always in a relationship. Always with this person tomorrow, you with somebody else. It's like, okay, can
Yeah.
you not just be with one person?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I think there's a certain kind of person who can be in a long term relationship with a narcissist. I think it's those codependent people,
Yeah.
maybe, but oftentimes people can't maintain a long-term relationship with a narcissist, but they want to be in a relationship, right? Because they get that attention. They feed the narcissist in them. So yeah, I guess it would be relationship hopping. So if you tolerate this in your personal life, I think that it's easier to miss it in business, right? If maybe you are in that relationship with a narcissist, then you might have a boss who's a narcissist. Maybe the woman in the job that you were talking about, I don't want to say, well, maybe she has some narcissists in her life that, and she allows that behavior. And that's why she stayed at that job so long. I don't know. I pity these people because it's miserable to be with a narcissist so long. And I think that you become like almost trained. It's kind of like, what do they call that syndrome when you're like a hostage for so long?
Is it imposter? No. I know she's oh god.
Stockholm syndrome,
Stockholm
right?
syndrome, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you've just gotten so used to it that you think that's how people are and you don't really yeah. I feel so bad for those people, but yeah, so
So how
do you
do
have an example of a personal relationship with a narcissist? And how'd you get
well,
out?
yeah, the friend that I told you about, personal, business, social, I mean, she checks all the boxes. But so how would you what would you say or what advice would you give to somebody who's in a personal or social relationship with somebody who's a narcissist? That's somebody that you spend a lot of time with, like I spend time with that person occasionally,
Yeah.
but somebody who's like you have to live with this person.
Yeah.
Or you have to
I've
work with them like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and you just can't escape them.
so I have a family member who is in this category. For me, didn't like I for better or for worse, walked away to save myself. If a person that's really close to you in your life constantly tries to control you and make you feel bad about yourself, no matter their position in your life, their importance, you're better off not having someone bring you down all the time. And so that might be walking away, that might be putting distance in the ways you need to. And hopefully, I firmly believe that people can change, even narcissists. And I know a lot of people say that narcissists can't change. I do believe they can change. People get older and they get tired. Like change happens. And so sometimes when you cut out that narcissist, it helps them to realize the errors of their ways and they may make a few adjustments to lessen the control of the personality disorder over them.
Yeah, because I think too, when people realize that they're losing friends left and right and nobody wants to be around them, I think that that kind of like make them think, wait, am I the problem? Like,
Right.
why can't I keep a friend? Why is like everybody always leaving me? And then the thing is too, we also have to think about those people who might say, like the narcissists I know, when people leave, it's never her fault. It's always other people's fault. So, they might say, wait, all my friends are leaving. Well, it's their loss. Well, no, it's your loss. They're
I know.
leaving you. You're not leaving them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's tough dealing with a narcissist.
It is. It really is. But at a certain point, someone who is intelligent enough needs to recognize that it's not, there's never a scenario when it is everybody else, ever. If it's everybody else, you need to take a look at yourself.
Yeah.
You need to. And one day, I hope that they will. And that will be the day when they, and I think what prevents them from doing it for so long is because it's painful. It's so,
Yeah. I can
yeah,
only
pain
imagine.
to look at yourself in that way, right?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, you know. And I think we all, not just narcissists, I think everyone should do at some point, do a check of yourself, you know, like look in the mirror and just evaluate yourself and who you are. Because nothing is wrong with saying, hey, I have a problem, let me fix it. But I
Yeah.
think also it's a lot of fear and people don't want to face the truth. So we wear these masks and we pretend like we're perfect and everything's fine. And we don't want to do this self evaluation to say, okay, what can I change about myself? What are some of the errors of my ways that I can fix to not only make my life better, but to make the people around me, how about to make their lives easier? Because everybody wants to live in a harmony, right? Nobody wants to live with somebody who's miserable. So I think that is something that we all should do. Everyone, just take stock of some of the traits that you have that might not be so favorable to other people and just say, okay, how is this showing up in my life that's causing other people harm? And then, you know, it might not be physical harm, it could be emotional harm, it might not be a big problem, but it could be like little subtle things that irks people, right? And nothing is wrong with just saying, okay, how can I dial it back a little bit or how can I change that? Because change is good for everybody. And we should all strive to be better people. Be true to ourselves and be honest to who we are, but be better people in sense that people can be around us and people want to be around us. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think when we choose to do therapy, it's for the people around us as much
Eh,
as it's for us too.
Yeah. Yeah. I strive to always just be the better person, as hard as it is. Because trust me, some people make it very hard for you to like them.
They do. They do. And it can be sometimes if you're too understanding and you empathize too much with why they are this way, you can hurt yourself. So you still have to protect yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I know that you have a friend in this category. Have you had other personal relationships and what did you do about that?
Well, see, I'm the kind of person, and I'm not saying this is good, because I understand the error of my ways. Since we're talking about that, I'm the kind of person that I love to cut people off, right? You get one chance, you screw up, you're done. There's no, I'm sorry, there's no coming back. And over the last couple of years, I've been working on that. We're trying to give people grace, trying to understand that people are humans. We fall, we fail, you know, it's going to happen. So I've just been a little bit more lenient. But yes, I don't have toxic people around me for too long, except this one friend that I'm talking about. I don't know why she's still around. However, I've over the last couple of years, like I said, I've been working on myself to give people grace. And she is so lucky that she is in this phase of my life where I'm giving people grace, right? Because otherwise she'd have been gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really don't have anybody in my life right now that is just narcissistic that I just cannot be around. And there have been people who have just been like, one and done. And then, like I said, the last couple of years, I've been working on just, you know, giving grace. And it's been working for me because then it makes me look at the world and look at people differently. Because then when people screw up, I am reminded that people need grace, give them a chance. And even other people around me to be like, oh my God, this person's so horrible. I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. I'm even the same narcissist who loves to like fight and cut people off. I'm the one who's always saying, give people grace because she has no idea how much grace she's getting from me. Right? So I feel like we have to give people grace. We have to know that people can make mistakes. And so I don't have anybody in my life right now that I cannot absolutely tolerate. Like I can't, if you're in my life, it's because I can tolerate you.
That's that's good. So in dealing with the narcissist, have you talked to your friend and said that word to her, narcissist, or has anybody else?
Well, yes, the word narcissist has been said, but again, it's one of those things where it just rolls off. Like it doesn't stick. And in that process, she's lost a lot of friends, except me. I'm still around because I'm giving her grace. But at some point, grace will run out. But yes, she is aware, but I don't know what it is. And so many people have said all the time, you need therapy, you need help to,
Yeah.
and she's like, no, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. So it's the denial too that if everybody's telling you you're dead, it's time to lay down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's just not laying down. She's just not laying down. So I don't know.
It is tough. Like, how long do you put up with someone who will not help themselves?
That's a good question. That's a good question. How long do you put up with someone? The old me would have lasted a day. She would have lasted a day. But like I said, I've been working on my grace for the last couple of years. And so every time I tell myself, okay, here she go again, acting a fool, I'm done, I'm reminded again, grace, give her grace. And so I don't know how long I will put up with her before I say it's done. I don't know because I'm just constantly reminded that people need grace.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. I
How
think
about you, though? Do you have anybody?
so I've definitely encountered a lot in the work world, and I've always had a hard time. Like sometimes, they're in leadership positions and you recognize it and you know you're supposed to play the game, right? You know you're supposed to like listen intently and like buy into their stories of like their savior complex and things like that. I can't do that. I don't have that ability. I will ignore them and then they'll go sit somewhere else. That's happened to me at like networking dinners and stuff. And so I don't have the patience for that in my personal life either. I will just cut them out. So, yeah, I don't give grace in that area. I did have a relationship with someone who was like really into like love bombing. He would do gaslighting.
Right.
He would tell because it'd been a while since I'd been in a relationship, and he was like, "Oh, that's what a relationship is," things like that, and that lasted like 6 months, which I guess that's kind of my cutoff point. Like I can deal with a personal relationship for a few months before I just like can't handle it
Yeah.
anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Well, everybody has their limits. So at some
they're
point,
everywhere.
everybody has a cap.
I guess so. I think that the antidote to dealing with a narcissist is if you choose to keep them in your life, it's setting boundaries that
Yeah,
they'll probably push,
of
but you
course.
keep setting the boundaries. You're very be clear with them about those boundaries, about your needs and self awareness of yourself. So, and of them, so you can kind of guide them, give them pointers. And because by having them in your life, you are kind of assuming that responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
Yeah,
to
that is
maintain your
true.
mental.
I do set boundaries with everyone, even my narcissistic friend. Like you will not call me after a certain time of night. I don't care what you're calling me for. No.
Yeah.
That's just me. Don't call me on the weekends. Don't call me on Sundays. I mean Saturday, yeah, I might take your call, but Sundays no. Don't call me after a certain time of night. Like that's just me. I set boundaries with people, and you have to do that with people, even narcissists, whether it's professional or personal, because people naturally like to push boundaries. That's just who we are, and so
That is
you
true.
have to set boundaries to maintain your sanity, your own for your own sake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a really good point. It is the natural thing. People will push boundaries because you're teaching other people how to treat you if you give in or if you hold firm to that boundary.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, guys. Great session today. So we thank you for joining us on another episode of Brand and Bank. And so here's the bottom line: narcissism drains trust. Trust fuels teams. And trust, more than talent, is what sustains both your brand and your bank. So you never want to lose sight of. All right. So until next time, join us on another episode of Brand and Bank. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.